This is the story of a young girl who moved to a new city with her mom and dad to start a new life. She is a very thin girl with her short black silky hair. Also part of her family is her unconditional dog Klaus. She helped her mom organize the house and then organize her own room because everything was inside boxes, and the next day they had to go to what was going to be her new high school. They were happy because the new high school was very close to the house and they could walk. So they walk towards the school, while she is happy with her white dress and her thin figure tells her mom that she likes that small city. When her mother and she with her white dress entered the high school, the corridor was lonely and silent because the students were in classes in their classrooms. She and her mom entered the reception to register in high school, and there they met the principal of the school, and she adjusted her white dress nervously. Then she and her mom went shopping to buy the high school uniform, and it was hard to find her size for being skinny. The next day, her mom picked her up to prepare for the new high school. She was sleepy because she hadn't slept almost. Then she ate her breakfast in a hurry and nervous and kissed her mom and dad because she was going to school alone because she is no longer a little girl, she is now a teenager. When she arrived at school, there were many boys and girls in the hallway talking, and she was very nervous because in the last school, she didn't do very well. At the time of entering, the school doorbell rang to start classes, and the teacher was already inside, standing waiting for them to settle in. The high school teacher introduced her to her classmates and told her to look for an empty desk. She sat very nervous. She was very quiet. She only concentrated on attending to the teacher. There were some girls who looked at her and laughed and passed notes secretly. When the teacher asked a question about the class, she was the first to raise her hand and answer. That annoyed a group of 4 classmates because they looked at her from their desks with annoyance and jealousy, maybe because they didn't study or know any high school subject. At lunchtime in the dining room, she had to eat alone. No one sat with her at the same table. Everything seemed quiet at school for her except for those 4 girls in her class who looked at her strangely and muttered secretly. Until one day that the high school sports teacher who was on vacation came back to give them sports classes and told her she should bring sportswear the next day. The next day, she and her high school classmates went to the school gym for the sports class. She went in the sports shorts very excited because she loved to play sports. But in sports class, everything got worse for her because there the girls began to make fun of her harder because of her thin legs.
Her classmates in high school made fun of her for being so thin. Even the girls in the classroom called her names.
When the doorbell rang and announced the time to go home, she ran out of school quickly, desperate.
She all would go running to home, very sad from high school.
She arrived at the house agitated and tired from school. She opened the door of her house and entered.
She didn't pay attention to her parents who said hello to her and locked herself in her room to take off her high school uniform. She wondered, disappointed in front of the mirror, why my body is so ugly. She lay down on her bed, sobbing on her pillow. Her parents, worried about her, knocked on her door, and from outside they asked her if everything was okay. She tried not to cry, and wiping her tears, she replied from the room that everything was fine.
The next day, she didn't have high school and didn't leave the house. He just spent playing in the garden with his dog.
On Monday, the day of going to high school, she covered herself with her sheet, pretending to be sick.
But the mother found out she didn't have a fever and told her that the next day she would have to go to high school.
The next day, she arrived at school and found in her locker many writings that told her nicknames. On her table in class, she found several writings as well. That's how sad days passed for her, and her classmates kept making fun of her every day.
Mom and Dad were worried because they saw her for many days different and quiet and talked to her to find out if something was happening in high school that she hadn't told them. But she replied to her mom and dad that sitting together in the living room and still with the high school uniform, since everything was going well, and she tried to show a smile. Every day she lied and said she had left her sports clothes in the house or any other excuse. In the high school cafeteria, a girl approached her and said, "Hello, can I sit here?" She said yes, and the girl sat at her table. But a voice was heard calling her, and it was one of the 4 girls in the class who didn't want the girl to sit there. The other girl obeyed the order a little annoyed and changed the table in the school dining room, leaving her alone sitting there, and she lost her appetite and didn't want to eat and got up from the dining room table embarrassed to leave. At home, she tried to let her mom and dad not find out the truth, and when they asked her how high school was going, she pretended with a forced smile and said very happy.
She didn't feel like going out to dinner, but she couldn't lie to her parents, and she only dressed in loose clothes so as not to look so thin.
One day, while inside the bathroom, some girls from her class came in and began to talk in secret without knowing that she was inside hiding. The girls in the bathroom talked about her, saying that the other girls were the most popular in school, and all the new ones who came in were treated like that. It was like a pact between them. Although it was concerning what they said, she doesn't know because she felt relieved that it was nothing personal against her, that they did it to the new students, and while she listened hidden in the bathroom. The girls didn't realize that she was hiding alone in the bathroom, listening to everything they were talking about, and left. She returned to class more animatedly because she thought it would be temporary, and over time they would get tired of bothering her, or if some new high school student entered. She no longer had the strength to ignore the teasing anymore, and every time she finished sports classes, she ran to the bathroom to cry. Finally, one day after holding back laughter and teasing, a new student appeared with her mom to register in high school. She was a cute girl with blonde hair. She looked at her smiling, thinking that would be her freedom. She was cheerful on her way home, leaving high school, although she was sad that her joy was the reason that another girl would be the center of mockery and abuse, and that she was happy that she would never be the victim again. But the next few days, she could notice that the new girl with blonde and long hair was not a victim of mockery and any kind of abuse, and she felt relieved, but doubtful. On the contrary, the girl joined the group of the most popular high school girls. The next 3 days they didn't bother her, and she thought they had already forgotten about her, thank God, but everything was quiet only until the day they had sports classes again. Her mom and dad noticed the sadness of those days and tried to talk to her and ask her if everything was fine at school.
But she said nothing happened and that she was happy in high school, and that she had many friends. Then the high school teacher gave her a note to give to her parents.
She gave the note to her mom and only said to show up at high school the next day. The next day, the mother went to school for the meeting with the principal. The principal explained the situation to his mother in front of her and explained that her sports grades had dropped for not attending classes with the required uniform. She didn't want to tell the truth to the high school principal in front of her mom because her relatives sacrificed many things to take her away from her old high school and take her to another city to start a new life.
Already at home, she told her family what was happening with tears in her eyes. His mother called the school and explained the situation to Thao. Parents decided to take her to a psychologist who helps teenagers overcome high school traumas. The psychologist forbade her to go to school until she finished her therapies. In the therapies with the psychologist, she learned and understood many very important things and participated with the other boys and girls from high school in many activities together.
In the therapies, she learned and remembered once again the meaning of self-love and being well with her personality and her figure, and learned that in life, to achieve dreams you have to fight every day without giving up in the face of any obstacle that presents itself, with courage.
The principal and the teacher of the high school talked to the students in the class and scolded them for that attitude. The teacher and the principal explained to the high school students that the physical or mental abuse was not acceptable in that school, and that each person is different, and they all have different beautiful qualities to feel proud of and deserved respect.
Many of the students lowered their heads embarrassed and looked at the girl's empty desk.
After a month, autumn was coming, and the next day she would go back to high school. She was a little nervous about going back to high school, but now she felt stronger.
When she was walking down the corridor, she was surprised to see some students in the class smiling at her in an affable way.
A girl in the class approached her desk and offered her her grades of the subjects taken to UPand. She was surprised. Everything seemed quiet at school for her except for those 4 girls in her class who looked at her strangely and muttered secretly.
She felt hopeful when some girls in her class came to ask her what dress she would wear at high school graduation.
When she got home, her mother was happy to see her encouraged to participate in the high school graduation party. She and her mom went to buy the high school graduation party dress that would be next night, and she chose a pink one, her favorite color. Her mom and dad were at their high school graduation feeling happy and proud of her, and they couldn't hold back their tears. At the party, several girls joined her to share and dance together. She looked beautiful with her pink dress and had a lot of fun. Only 2 or 3 girls who didn't like to share with her looked at her annoyed at the graduation party when they saw her with her elegant pink dress, maybe because she radiated confidence and security and looked like a cute princess on her party night with her beautiful black hair up.
Although she still felt a little nervous every day, she looked happier and more confident. Remembering what happened to her and everything she learned, she decided to study psychology to help children who present those problems.
When she got home from her psychology classes, her fuel friend, his dog, ran towards her to receive her, wagging her tail while her mother looked at her smiling. As a psychology student, She put a lot of effort into studying and fell asleep in her room about her books.
She liked to contemplate in her home the picture frames of the high school graduation and that of the psychology school. And when she contemplated the sea with her older parents, she remembered the wisdom she obtained in her life, always loving herself and feeling proud of who she is and always fighting for her dreams. And over the years, she became a sweet and beautiful psychologist who always tried to teach children to feel proud of who they are, and that the most important thing is the nobility that she carries in her heart.